So a little bit for both of you guys, you said something there, Tom, just a couple minutes ago about, looking for the board and setting things up there. And I think Jay would have a really cool perspective here now seeing, I bet you know one heck of a lot more about sort of the technology landscape and fintech land than ever before, right? And certainly like wildly different perspective than just being a banker. And thinking about, I mean, a great example would be how are we going to market and sell this product? What's partnerships and distribution going to look like, right? And on and on and on. And so that's kind of my question for both of you guys. Selecting a board, what are you thinking about? Is it how we get core partnerships, or how do we need talent on this side or that, or is it opening doors, or is it leadership and education? What do you think about there, and why is that important to the structure of the company?
Yeah,
You
you
want
want
to
to take?
take that one first?
Some zingers today,
Well, I mean, I
man.
was drinking there for a
Yeah.
second. It's like,
All
I,
right, all right.
I'm
I'll,
asking
I'll
the
go.
questions that I don't necessarily have the answer
Yeah,
to be fair.
I it's a great question, and I know a lot of companies and entrepreneurs have different lenses on it. For me, when we were thinking about the Z Suite board, it was okay, who has gone on this journey before? Because I for sure am a kindergartner when it comes to fintech, because it's not banking. So we need a couple people on the board who've gone through the journey. And so what the founding board one, we had Tom, which was awesome because he went from like idea in the garage to sale, and he's done that multiple times. So he knows the full entrepreneur journey. The second one that we brought on was Bill Neville, which was Bill had like big company core experience, and he's bought lots of companies. So he knows the other end of the table, which is when it comes time, this is how you should look. This is the professionalism that's required, and that was great. Another thing about Bill was he's just also like a really supportive person, which I think is one of the most important things for the entrepreneur. I mean, it's a hard journey, right? You don't want your board like you want their support. Like it's an emotional hard journey, and you want to know they got your back. And then and then outside of that, to round the board, it's like about just having smart, business minded people who are patient. So we have VG on the board, who's a HBS professor, someone I know for a long time. Really calm, smart, intelligent, asks the right questions. So I think we have an awesome board. And then that's evolved over time as we've added, more capital and stuff. Right. But I'll pass to you, Tom.
Yeah. So let me start from the 80,000 foot level. Tanner, I know Tanner's cracking up. It's like, man, I've heard this stuff from Tom again. He starts from the 80,000 foot level, and then he starts cutting grass, right? So I think when you think about a board as an entrepreneur or a group of leaders, there's two things you must think of first before you get down to the lower level. The first thing, the most fundamental of all things, is do you want governance? Very often, I meet entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs would say, yeah, I need a board, I need a board. But when you talk to them, you realize they don't want governance. They're having a good time, they're having fun, and governance isn't what they want.
He's talking about us, I think. Yeah. We don't do well with rules.
Right. Yeah. Right. So governance, think about governance, right? Then the second thing is once you decide you do want governance, you want to put a board together, okay? And somebody taught me this when I was a young pup, and that was don't ever get two of the same. Because if you get two of the same, it's like wearing two watches. One on your left hand, one on your right hand. Which one is right? You never know, right? Believe in somebody and bring that one somebody in. And when that somebody gives you counsel in that specific area, for example, Jay talked about Bill Neville. I love Bill Neville. I've worked with him so many times. We had so much success over the years together in partnership. And I tell people I'm a little fintecher and Bill's a big fintecher, not just because he's bigger and taller than I am, but he's working much larger firms. And so when we talked about, let's say, core partnerships, I can talk about that. When you want to talk about signing, $100 billion banks, well, Bill can talk about that. What do we need to put into the contract, right? So So while you might think of Tom and Bill are similar, but yet we're at the different ends of the spectrum. So then, what do you think of when you bring in a board member? I would say there are three top of mind things, right? The first thing is, will they provide you with strategic thought leadership? Do they know enough about this place? I'm not talking about what happened last year. I'm talking about what's going to happen next year, right? You can buy reports to tell you what happened last year, right? You want somebody to be able to see around corners, right? So strategic thought leadership, that's the one. Number two is that they have an influence in the marketplace in which you play, where some buyer would say, oh my goodness, Bill joined this board. I should take a look at that company. I wonder what they're doing. They must be doing something interesting, because why would Bill be there, right? And then the third thing is, and I said it earlier, right? In comes the mafia, right? The ability to recruit, the ability to call up somebody. I need one of these. I need one of those. I'm looking for a chief sales officer. I'm looking for a head of technology. I'm thinking about developing big data with AI. Okay. That leader is never one phone call away from somebody they've worked with that can bring value in immediately, whether as an employee, as a consultant, an advisor. At Z Suite, when Nathan and the team started to turn the solution into a larger platform, we had to rewrite part of it. Of course you do. We had to rewrite part of it to make it industrial strength and be able to handle multiple niches. So what did we do? We asked our old friend, Mayo co-founder, CTO, Danny Piangerelli, to come to our board as a board advisor to help guide Z Suite CTO. How should we think about this, right? So that's the value you think about a board member brings. And then here's the last thing. Is for a board member, it must be fun, and you must have an opportunity to learn, right? For me, if I'm not having fun, I don't want to do it, because I can't contribute if I'm not having fun, right? But I must be learning as well. I ask myself after every board meeting, what's the one thing I learned? Did I learn something from this? Because it can't be a one-way street. And I love the other board members of which I learn from.
Man, I gotta tell you, that right there, the three bullet pillars, that was absolutely brilliant.
It was a masterclass.
Yeah.
It was outstanding.
It really was.
It was really good. Jay, I'd love to kind of tie that over to you, man. And I swear I'm going to stop asking questions. You guys, just especially together, are so interesting, man. I love this stuff and so many cool perspectives. But thinking about all of this, I'm learning, to Tom's point, on the call today, right? And this is cool. How much of that, you have to have picked up so much stuff, and that's to change your mindset coming back to the bank, right? On a regular day-to-day or in your leadership at the bank, it's got to look different just because your mindset's different. And you've seen a lot more, and you have a bigger network, and right. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it is blown my mind. It's really changed my mindset. It's okay. So like on a lot of dimensions, like the first is the confidence to say, okay, if you bring the right people and the right strategy and patient capital. So that's another thing. Maybe I'm a big believer in patient capital. You bring those three things together.
Patient capital.
Yes.
Really magical things can happen. And you just you need to have the confidence that it will, and it's going to take time. But those are the ingredients. So that's, when we take new projects on now, I will say what's a little bit different about me, and I've learned a lot from Tom, I've learned a lot from Nathan, is all right, what is the best talent I can get? Let's not cut corners on the type of person we need to start up this new subsidiary at the bank. Let's find the best person. Then let's go and let's find really good tech. But before we do any of that, let's kind of map out what is our edge going to be. We don't want to just enter a business that everyone's doing and just have another blah Me Too thing. we want, like, we're going into insurance, for example. That's a subsidiary we started, and we're going in and we're going to compete because we have this piece of it that nobody else does, and that is going to be like the gemstone that creates it. And that yeah, that's been a piece. I think the other piece is, like, I always had this, like, I still do. I still struggle with, like, you know, you have a startup and it burns money, and, like, the whole thing about burning money, like that, I still struggle with it. Okay. But I have much come to understand delaying, quote unquote, profits for long-term value creation. And so we've probably started like 4 or 5 new businesses at the bank since the Z Suite era. And I will say we've let those lose money or hum at break even much longer than I would have, before this learning. But by doing so, we've created a much better competitive positioning in the marketplace. And I think ultimately, like, much better long-term potential and success.
This is great, because this is what Tom was actually outlining earlier, is that, niches, platformification, these things, if you're not able to do that, it's hard to succeed.
Right.
And then to your point, Jay, to have that patience to let that play itself out. I will tell you, I have had my ass kicked by him so many times. We're out there hunting and talking, and he's telling me, if you just be cool on this, and I've kind of turned that to my own little metaphor now, that I tell people, just go to the back corner of the court and dribble the damn ball for a minute.
Right.
Run some clock.
Let the play unfold a little bit. I'd say, I tell him all the time, my 2 things when I'm talking to founders that I'm always looking for is, first, you said it perfect, Jay, is somebody like Tom, someone who's done it before successfully. And I mean, we weeded out 99.9% right off the bat, right? Right. That's a very short list of people that have done it before, and then much shorter list that have done it before successfully, right?
This is really cool, though, because we do it with our little BHB fund. And so we're seeing companies all the time, and we're doing the evaluation, not just the financial side, but these other characteristics.
The numbers are the numbers. And the market and the positioning is what it is. But for me, number 1 is the people and the leadership. And then number 2 is, like you said, Jay, it's patience. And I want to see that the founders have baked in patience into their model, because I could move heaven and earth in 2 years, and I couldn't move an inch in 1, right? And it's taken, I think, all of us a long time to learn that. But if you'll let the play develop and give yourself more time, you can build things that are much bigger, that, to Tom's point, have bigger revenue potential, equity value, et cetera, that are more platforms than solutions.
Yeah, core integrations take time. Things like that. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this moves on to sort of the 6th stage, right? We talk about the 5 stages of rolling out a company. The 6th stage is just that, smart capital, because at some point you need fuel to grow. And I know it's overused word, smart capital. Consider this. In 2022, venture raised $170 billion. In 2023, it was 80% down. They raised 20% of that. And so where'd the money go? Right? Smart money. We were very, very fortunate at Z Suite. We worked hard, and we brought in FinTech to work with us early on. And they opened up a great network of banks to us, and they helped us. And when we went for the next round, we brought in S3, Charlie Plache and the group down in Austin to work with us. Smart folks. They were the early investors in Alchemy, done very well with that. And we think we'll do as well for them as well. So,
and BTV, Tom, too. BTV as well.
BTV, that's right. Sorry.
Yep.
We shouldn't forget BTV. And so the fuel to grow is important, but that smart money, which implies patience as well, right? There are days we need our asses kicked, and there are days we need encouragement.
Yes.
So smart money knows which day is which.
Wow. Very well said. Very well said. I think there's something in there too that, whether we're talking about capital or board members, and sometimes those things can go hand in hand and, get a little fuzzy in a good way or a bad way. But you got this thesis here that I think we all kind of hit, of things that are strategic. And same thing with partnerships, because I mean, all those things are a partnership too. There's the difference between a partnership where something, everybody might get something out of it and there's a little greed factor, okay, and then something that strategically 1+1=3, right?
Yeah.
And I think that strategic theme, where it makes everybody's organization separately and together better, whether we're talking about partnerships, to Tom's point, we're talking about hiring people, and we're going to put the band back together, that fits. Same with boards, same with capital. That theme of togetherness and, everybody being better, that strategic theme is so important.
It's something else. Tom had another one earlier, man, that, when you're learning something, you're having a good time, right?
That's right.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and go, when Lennon and McCartney were doing the Beatles thing and writing a couple, they're probably looking at each other going, man, this is awesome. And I bet this is a good song.
Yeah. Were they working 18-hour days or having fun?
Right.
Yeah.
And that right there, when you're in a groove and it's right, man, it puts a smile on your face. It's easy to get out of bed in the morning. I mean, things are just, it's like, hey, this is all good. This is a good, and you're doing
Dave,
good.
Dave, I would jump on this thing and push this a little further, right? 1,000% agree. Here, push this a little further. And Jay and I talk about this, and we kid about this, and we kid Nathan about this, is every now and again in life, doesn't happen very often, every now and again, I'm not a surfer, but I understand when you get that big one.
Yes.
Right? And we're on that big one at Z Suite as an example. And just to pound our chest a little bit, last 3 years, we've doubled. Went from 29 customers to 45 to 84. I got the real numbers, so I can't lie. So I got the real numbers. I asked our CFO, our kick-ass CFO, to give us that number. Good. But here it is. You get on that wave, right? You're on that big one, and you're rolling, right? And you ask yourself, am I going to keep rolling? Am I going to fall off? Am I going to keep rolling? Am I going to fall off? You ask yourself that every day, right? It's that balance.
Every day.
It's that balance, right? Before, woo, and oh my God, it's a long ways down.
What did I do?
Right? Yeah. What did I do, right? And so the mindset is, do I keep pushing this envelope, or am I starting to shift my mindset to, let's not screw this thing up? Right. And that's very, very dangerous. And that's a balance. And that's why you need big leaders. You need board members to help you to say, wait a minute, are you subconsciously getting scared and slowing down and want to reap some rewards? Right. Where are you in this big wave? Look at the marketplace. Can I keep growing? Can I keep doubling every year and tripling? Right. So I'm just pushing what you said, Dave, on that next step on.
So good.
It's beautiful.
I've been on the other side of this. I think, look back to leaders and partners and everything. There's something magical about the old guys too. I have to point out, because I will so many times have fallen prey to what you're talking about, Tom. I'm sitting there and I've been so successful for so long and doing such a great job that you start talking yourself into some nightmare is going to happen. And he's on the other side and he's like, chill, man, take a breath. He's like, look out there. Everything's perfect and great. And sure enough, in retrospect, we actually ended up doing twice as good as we thought we would have, right? But I was on the teeter mill.
This is a great point, though. In our industry in general, I mean, there's like, we go through these little cycles and waves to where anybody over 40 can't be hired. And that's stupid. That is just flat out. I'm going to tell you, a guy that was once 40, that's dumb. Okay. The other thing that I think is really a neat thing that I'm beginning to see more and more, and we're actually doing some of this matchmaking, but you get tech companies that are like, hey, I want a really badass banker guy on our board, right? And I've got a bank guy that's like, hey, I'm retired, but I sit on this really good board. I don't want to betray that bank, but I would sit on a fintech board, right? And so we've got a lack of technology leadership on the bank side. And then we've got a lack of banking leadership on the tech side.
To say it a different way that I think Tom would really agree with, it's been two worlds for too long. And I think you look at Jay, you look at Tom, you look at us, we've all four of us on this call, we found our success in the merging of the two.
Right.
Right. And I think there's a lot more. I mean, do you guys feel that's going to be more of the norm going forward? I mean, the most successful folks are really understand both sides and do well on both sides. I think that we'll see a lot more of that. I hope. I mean, we all should be on the same team.
There's a lot of crossover. There's a lot of crossover. I sit on a bank board, and we've got technologists aside from myself on that board, and I know we understand that it's one thing. It's not two things. It needs to be meshed together. It's not to think of another thing, especially how important digital is to banking and to our customers and members.
Outstanding.
Yeah, and I think there needs to be a mutual respect to both sides. Where I think sometimes some companies do a great job of that and some less so. But as a banker, you have to really appreciate and respect your technology partners. And if you're at a fintech, you have to appreciate and respect the banks that you're selling to. And they all move at different speeds and have different compliance and regs and stuff for different reasons, but yeah.
But whoever you are as the fintech guy, myself included, go to the littlest, crummiest, stupidest looking bank you've ever seen, and I couldn't run that bank. Right. And there's some humility in that is very, very important that has been lacking.
Right. UDAP is not the stuff you dip your sauce. Yeah, it's a whole other thing, right?
So as we're coming up on the hour, let me turn the table to the Mayos. What excites you in 2024? What's top of mind and what gets you excited?
You go first. I know myself.
No, go ahead.
I'll tell you what, I'm really jamming on the idea that I see we have an election. We've also got, potential policy changes. We've got interest rate potentially coming down. We're going to have 1 million bank mergers when the stock prices come up with the interest rates coming down. We're going to have a lot of opportunities out there. I think Bass is going to make a sweeping comeback by the tail end of 24. There's just a lot of neat things that are almost, I would just say, they're inevitable. Yep. They're going to happen, and they're going to be good. And they're things and opportunity zones for people that I know, and the things that I think are so jazzy and cool about the business, whether it's community banking or technology. Yeah. That merger is really starting to heat up.
Yeah, I would say I echo the Bass and embedded finance sentiment in a big way. I think there's something everybody really hadn't been seeing in the last couple of years, namely because of a lot of just banks making mistakes, some of the connectors making some boo-boos, and a lot of bad press and bad regulatory things going on. But I think that there's the next step in business or commercial banking. I mean, I tell everybody, drive down the highway and look at all the signs, along the highway and all those businesses, and they all would like to offer more financial services than they do today. Let's say a debit card, et cetera, et cetera. And so being able to offer those BaaS embedded finance solutions to your businesses, I think is shifting from a cool, interesting option story into more of a necessity. And we're starting to see more of those banks that have those weapons, like issuing debit cards, going and taking commercial business from other banks. And so I see that commercial banking space being really interesting. And I think it's an interesting lesson, though a laggard, for community banks in the small business market to look at, because we all know we have to win in small business. So I'm looking real hard right there next year.
Agree.
That's probably my biggest focus. And I'd say as part two, I'm really excited and inspired right now. I know it's been tough times. We talked about SVB and economics and everything else, but I think I'm really excited. Just the spirit that I see in community banking. I mean, Tom, I think back to 10 plus years ago, everybody was not kind of struggling to wake up on technology. And now you've got in community banking, the bankers especially are their eyes wide open, ears open, excited, humble to the point. And I think also everybody's really coming together really well right now. So it has that feeling like we're all waking up and we have a good army starting to form. And I feel more hopeful than ever because of that.
That's a great question. Thank you. Thank you for asking.
Hey, I want to give you guys final thoughts. Anything under the sun. It could be banking. It could be football, Tom's golf game, whatever you want. But you guys take a couple minutes each.
You want me to go, Jay?
Go ahead.
Just maybe three thoughts. One is I completely agree, Dave and Tanner. with what you guys are saying. And I appreciate, as someone who cares a lot about community banking, I really appreciate what you all are doing in that space to rally. They need a rallying point. And you guys are certainly one of the key rallying point, to be a light to draw them together. And I've watched your success, both of you over the last few years, and just admire what you guys are doing. So I think that's number one. Number two, I think 2024 will see the balance of intelligence between human intelligence and artificial intelligence, that coming together of finding the right point between convenience and creepiness. That balance between human and artificial. So intelligent banking, if you will, to start to help our customers and our members manage their financial lives better, be that individuals, be that small business. And then the third point is, and I'm very fortunate that many of the companies I'm involved with managed to survive through 2023, even with some growth. And I believe that those that survive will be stronger in 2024 with an opportunity to thrive. And so I preach responsible growth. Responsible growth is to make sure you manage that growth such a way that you got enough capital to suffer another shock, should another shock arrive in 2024 that's unforeseen, and yet to be able to grow responsibly and to be able to deliver what you sell. And so I see that as quite exciting.
That's so good.
Love it.
Hey, Jay, before you start here, man, if I could just take a second and say thank you. Bank-born products are so cool. They're so needed. They're so well respected and so well thought out.
Yeah.
And the courage for the bankers to do so, man, hats off to you.
Yeah. And thanks for coming on and being inspiring to others. That's what we need.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll piggyback on what Tom said. Like, I feel this more from the banking lens. Last year was a really, really hard year. So in a way, it was great because, I mean, it was like hardcore training for like the worst that can happen, right? We went through FRB and SVB and depositors being worried and like NIM compression and all this stuff. So I really do feel like on the other end, when you survive this, like you are stronger, you are in a, you've thought of like so many different scenarios from a risk management perspective, like you're just better prepped. So I feel that's the opportunity for 2024 and beyond. I'll say one more thing though. I agree with you on potentially a lot of bank M&A. In addition, like what we saw with those 3 or 4 failures that happened is you had clients go from like a regional bank that did a great job with client service to a mega, like the biggest bank in the world. And the opportunity for all of us community banks has never been greater to kind of go in and compete on client service. And I tell this to my team every day, like that's always the case, but now even more so. You have so many customers that are now stuck at really big banks. We go in and we need to up our game on, we know your business better and we're going to deliver you better customer service. And it's a phenomenal opportunity for us. And so I'm excited about that as far as like all community banks, Leader included, to kind of up our game on that because that's how we compete at the end of the day.
Outstanding. Guys, cannot thank y'all enough. I had a ball. I think everybody learned a ton. Appreciate y'all and your story, the inspiration, all that you do in community banking and fintech. You're awesome. We love you, and we'll see you next time.
Keep winning.
All right.
Thank you. Awesome. Bye.
See you guys.